Double Rainboom and Snowdrop are two high-quality fan animations that came out within weeks of each other. Both were highly anticipated and received mixed reactions upon their release. I'd like to take a look at both of these and see if and how they work. Starting with Double Rainboom, I found the voice acting interesting. Rainbow Dash's voice was pretty close to the show, though it lacked the hint of rasp that Ashley Ball brings to the voice. I also felt the audio recording sounded as if it had a slight reverberation, which is usually what happens to me if I record in a space that's too open or don't properly pad the walls, but I'll try not to make assumptions on that. The next thing I noticed was Rainbow Dash's choice of not only picking Twilight Sparkle to cure her boredom, when she usually goes to Applejack, Pinkie Pie, or a nap time for these things, but also her choice of words,
"I snuck in."
To me, that implies that she wasn't wanted there and was aware of such fact but chose to ignore it. It strikes me as odd because even though Rainbow Dash has potential for obnoxious antics, they usually come out as a result of ego and not because of boredom. But perhaps it could work, I don't know. I'd be lying if I said I didn't occasionally act silly out of boredom, but at least I still avoid going places where I may not be wanted at that moment. What Rainbow Dash does here seems more like a Pinkie Pie antic to me. When the concoction explodes, the troll face appears, and at my first time viewing, this made me think that this was the introduction of the episode's villain. Granted, I had no idea why they chose the troll face or where they could possibly go with it, but for the time being it gave the story a little sense of unpredictability, which is something I always enjoy.
Careful! It might be dangerous. Dangerous? How?
Perhaps because it just blew up in Twilight's laboratory and gave a maniacal laugh right in front of your face before liquefying itself back into a vial filled with a relatively unknown chemical? Gosh darn it, they made Rainbow Dash awfully oblivious in this episode. The scene where Twilight explains the potion was a cool way to demonstrate a different type of animation and was definitely fun to watch, and I loved the scores that they made for the background music. Some people didn't like the scene though, and I have yet to hear a reason more specific than quote-unquote it seems pointless. I disagree simply because this is how the plot device of the story is being introduced. However, I could see where people might get the idea that the scene is pointless from its duration. Although it is important to the story, you don't want to over-explain things like they did here, as it wastes time and ends up telling the audience things that they already know. This scene could have been cut back in its duration by at least half and would have delivered the same amount of information. Here, allow me to demonstrate.
If I drank it, it would make my magic extremely powerful. What about me? What would happen if I drank it?
You'd probably be able to fly really fast.
This would have left room for story development elsewhere in the episode where it would have been needed more without losing the demonstration of style in the animation. In addition, Kira's delivery either sounded wooden or uncertain of herself. Wooden, if my noticing this is a matter of Kira's delivery, and uncertain of herself, if my noticing this is a matter of vocal direction. I don't know which is the case or if it's any combination of both. If it was a matter of directing, then Twilight's uncertain tone doesn't make sense to me as she knows exactly what this potion is intended for and what it could do if she successfully completed the formula. With this in mind, I would have gone for a more confident-sounding information dump, similar to the one that Tara Strong delivered for Twilight's anemometer monologue in Hurricane Fluttershy.
I'm still not sure if the potion...
Oh, why would you try to take off indoors? You should know that even if the potion did work, you wouldn't have enough space to get a decent speed to really test out your new flying abilities. That is, unless you were just trying to fly to the top of the stairs and had no idea how powerful your flying had really become, which would appear to be the case once we get here. Oh, now that's just mean. Oh, no, that's almost just as bad.
I could easily do a sonic rainboom. Even a double rainboom.
Oh, that's cool, but I still have no idea what a double rainboom is. Now, while earlier during the potion explanation it would have been good to cut back on what was explicitly stated and leave the rest to the audience's imagination, this is an instance where just a little bit more explanation or some prior explanation would have helped this scene a lot. Because of this, I had to guess what a double rainboom was and assumed that it was two sonic rainbooms in rapid succession to each other. My guess turned out to be correct, but then my next thought was that in addition to cutting back on Twilight's potion monologue, they should have replaced that time with an explanation as to what a double rainboom is and why Rainbow Dash cares about performing one. This would have better established a motivation to steal Twilight's potion. And then we go to the city of Townsville, and honestly, I don't know what to think. I mean, I had a lot of fun watching it. The action sequences were cool, and I liked the difference in the animation styles. But I still had a slight case of not knowing what was going on and a wish for more story development itching at the back of my head. I've also only seen a couple of episodes of the Powerpuff Girls, so I have no idea if anyone here is in character or if the girls are really this brutal and obnoxious. The lesson that they wrapped up on was halfway decent from a moral perspective and fairly true to the style of the show in terms of the format that they used and that they included just an appropriate amount of ambiguity. Overall, it was pretty enjoyable. It definitely met most if not all the criteria that one might have for a college animation project and hit them pretty well. The music was great. There were a few moments where the movements and transitions of facial expressions weren't as fluid as they are in the show, but it's just something I noticed and not something that I necessarily hold against the project. It was supposed to be a demonstration of animation ability, and it certainly succeeded on that front. It's tons of fun to watch just for that. However, the episode did have its shortcomings, one of which was its characterization. Twilight seemed whiny, which given the circumstances I can understand, but it still could have been reined in a little to sound more like being worried for a friend and less like complaining. And then Pinky's role had her fall into the common, non-canonical characterization as a crazy, nonsensical fourth wall breaker instead of just an eccentric girl with the ability to see situations differently and make connections that other characters wouldn't make, while constantly bearing an optimistic outlook on bad situations that all comes together and leads others to merely think that she's random or absent-minded. The story seemed to lack direction and only acted as a thin lace holding together excuses to demonstrate different styles of animation. As I said before, we got halfway through the episode before getting the first and only mention of the double Rainboom, and as the episode's title, I had expected it to play a bigger role in the story. For example, Sonic Rainboom had everything I've mentioned earlier in this video. It established what a Sonic Rainboom was, how it was done, gave Rainbow Dash a motivation to do so, and showed her attempting it all before the first act was over. Then it continued to build up right until the climax of the episode where Rainbow Dash completed the trick in order to save Rarity and the Wonderbolts. All of that together made the Sonic Rainboom an integral part of the episode. Here, we get one mention of the double Rainboom with no proper establishment or build-up, and then one demonstration and no mention of it again from there on out. I don't know how much thought and effort that Zachary Rich put into the story itself, but this is where I believe it loses a lot of people. Because the double Rainboom wasn't as important to its own episode as the Sonic Rainboom was, there wasn't anywhere else for the story to go logically, so it didn't go anywhere logical. This effectively rendered the whole Powerpuff Girls crossover as filler to likely meet a time requirement in the project's criteria. Do I know that for certain? No, I don't. But that's certainly what it looks like from the outside. This isn't helped at all by the smoke monster troll face that sucked itself back into the vial near the beginning of the episode. I had seriously felt like they were introducing and building up to a villain in central conflict when they did that, so it seems like just a lot of wasted potential. So how could it have been done better in terms of story? Well, first take out all the filler and excess explanations, but now we're only left with about half of the episode. Well, here's a few things that you could have done with the same premise and still have a full episode without any need for filler. Rainbow Dash attempts and fails to learn her new move, the double Rainboom, and fears that she's reached her full physical potential without being satisfied with her current strength. Upon learning of Twilight's talent enhancement potion, she takes it without asking. After enjoying its benefits, she performs the double Rainboom, destroys Ponyville, and crosses dimensions to Townville where she's harassed by the Powerpuff Girls. While trying to escape, the potion wears off and she's stuck. Fearing that she will unwillingly become the Powerpuff's pet and that she will never see her friends again, Rainbow Dash summons the strength to perform the double Rainboom without any enchantments, thus reopening the portal and going home to Ponyville, ending with a very similar lesson that changes slightly to be more about being careful of what you wish for because you might not know what the consequences of getting it would entail. There's the possibility that would involve the least amount of change to what's already here. Alternatively, after a brief time of the Powerpuffs fawning over Rainbow Dash, they realize she's sad and sympathize with her situation. With that, they decide it's not right to keep her and take her under their wings, so to speak. They teach her how to fly even faster so that now she can perform the double Rainboom without any enchantments and return to Ponyville. You know what? This is fun. Let's keep going. Rainbow Dash volunteers as a guinea pig for Twilight's talent enhancement potion, but when brewing the concoction takes too long, Rainbow gets bored and grows impatient and either takes the potion before it's properly completed or accidentally adds a chemical X into it. By doing this, despite the potion serving its originally intended purpose, the formula was not perfect and would thus cause whoever drank it to turn evil until the potion is fully digested or excreted. Or perhaps the potion just simply has a Mr. Hyde effect. These ideas would justify the use of Trollface. But now that Rainbow Dash is super fast, super powerful, and evil, she uses the double Rainboom to destroy Ponyville, and it's up to the rest of the main six to stop Rainbow Dash from destroying all of Equestria with her ultrasonic rainbow powers. All of this while holding back and being careful to not hurt their friend. This culminates with Rainbow Dash having an external conflict with the Trollface Talent Enhancement Potion Demon inside her body and regaining control so she can break her own wings and render herself useless for the rest of the time that the Trollface Potion Demon is inside of her, thus learning her lesson about taking things that aren't hers or patience and thinking ahead. Oh, wait, how about this one? Entering an advanced level flying competition, Rainbow feels the need to outdo her previous performance at the Best Young Flyers competition and conceptualizes the double Rainboom. Unable to make herself strong enough in time, she's tempted by Snowflake to use steroids. Although she denies them at first, she eventually takes them after being convinced that they are a natural, perfectly legal supplement that would guarantee her success. She pulls off the double Rainboom and wins the competition, but when her wings break shortly after the competition, her doctors diagnose it as a side effect of the steroid that she took, and she is stripped of her championship and set back to the very basics of Wonderbolt training to earn her way back to where she stood with them before the advanced competition, thus forcing her to learn a hard lesson about competitive honesty and the side effects of steroids. Actually, hold on a minute. I'm gonna write that last one down elsewhere and do it myself. Oh, sorry, I got a little sidetracked there, didn't I? Where was I going with all this? Oh yes, I remember. These are all the ideas with the same premise that I could have easily filled up 25 pages of script with. They could all bear the same feel as the show, and I thought of them within the span of 5 minutes. This is why I wonder how much real thought and effort was put into the script and story. But now that I've said everything I can say about Double Rainboom, what is there to say about Snowdrop? Well, the animation was smoother, the audio was well recorded and well mixed, the musical score fit perfectly, the characters' facial expressions were drawn more subtly and achieved a level of expression that was on par with not only that of the larger expressions used in Double Rainboom, but also just as good as the combination of grand and subtle countenances of Friendship is Magic as a whole. There wasn't anything in the story that wasn't needed or lacked explanation, and the pacing was spot on. Right off the bat, they explained why the seasons needed to be changed and established a general distaste for winter among the class. Without missing a beat, we see a blind Pegasus, confirm in dialogue that she's blind, establish that other classmates don't like working with her, and that she's shy as a result of her handicap in combination with this neglect among her peers, thus implying that in the past she's been a part of groups, perhaps messed something up or was difficult to work with or wasn't able to contribute as much because of her handicap, which brought about this lack of enthusiasm to work with her. All in all, the story was solid and smooth as a river stone. The voice acting is great. There's background character development. It's kept perfectly within the theme of a blind character by having her other senses such as hearing and touch be more sensitive than average. That sensitivity to touch became her tool in creating the snowflake based on the description that her mother had given her. Then they nearly perfectly captured how it feels to create something from your own heart and have that creation find its way into the hearts of an audience. They even thought to have the first snowflake made not look all that great and capture the spirit of most artists' first creations. It did strike me as odd that the teacher didn't help the blind filly home, and what she expected to be was going to be a tough storm. But that didn't seem much of a problem as we transitioned directly into the next scene with her contemplating her school project and situation of life in general. Perhaps we should have gotten a scene showing how she got home, but that would run a risk of distracting from the story and turning into a big-lipped alligator moment as much as it would offer potential for further character development. So now that I'm done gushing over Snowdrop, let's address some of the silly critiques I've seen against it, such as people calling it a sad fic. I would agree if this animation had been any more than 5 minutes longer without ever a change in tone to show the character in a wider variety of situations and giving her a chance to react differently to them. Then we'd risk crossing over into My Little Dashie territory. I've seen people say that it's pointless for Snowdrop to be blind and the only reason that she is blind is to try to force the audience to feel for her. To this I counter with the fact that it's because of her handicap that she was able to accomplish what she did. So anyone who said this has very likely missed the whole point of the story being told here. I've heard people call Snowdrop a Mary Sue. To this I simply say no, and please refer to my statements on how she learns to use her handicaps as well as the different and believable ways she interacts with the various types of people in her life such as the classmates, parents, teachers, and royalty. She also experiences internal conflict, and none of these are common traits of Mary Sue characters. The best part of everything I've mentioned here about Snowdrop in comparison to Double Rainboom is that everything I mentioned about Snowdrop was done on purpose. The balanced nature of the characters, the tight as a walnut shell story, the superior animation and sound quality, and even the design of the first snowflake was all done deliberately, in much less time as Double Rainboom, and with a much smaller crew. And that is just plain awesome. With all that said, go forth, sit back, relax, and enjoy the simple comedic pleasures of Double Rainboom, or the inspiring story of an artist's desire to bring hope to the world during a dreary time of year that is Snowdrop. If you have a topic on bronies, ponies, news, or anything in general that you would like to hear discussed, or if you have an episode, fanfiction, product, or anything else you would like to hear reviewed, send me a YouTube message or leave a comment below. You can also drop comments, questions, topic suggestions, and review suggestions by liking Brony Debates on Facebook, following on Twitter, or sending an email to bronydebates@yahoo.com. Have a great day, and I look forward to speaking with all of you soon.